welcome to another episode of the Rams House Podcast. I'm joined by my co-host Will and Joe. This is Ethan here, and we have OJ out on for holiday break. How you guys doing?
Good, man. Happy with the win. I'll take it.
I'm good, man. Yeah, Victory Monday, man. I'm excited.
Victory Monday. I wouldn't say it was a exciting or spectacular game or win, but it's a win, and we're one step closer to sealing up the division. I'm starting to taste those tears. Oh, you know what? I am actually because again, first of all, again, the Cardinal fans thought they were gonna when they had that quick start to the season, they thought, oh, this is gonna be it. We're gonna do something this year, and then
It all falls down for them, man. Always.
Call of Duty Murray came back again to he doesn't disappoint, man. We even talked about it before the season, and he did not disappoint. Ever since Call of Duty came back, Kyler Murray's been a bottom 10 quarterback. And then yesterday, officially, the 49ers were completely eliminated from the playoffs, which is like that's like a first Christmas, and then we're gonna have a second Christmas.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That is,
the Cardinals too. The Cardinals were eliminated
Yeah,
officially
yeah.
too.
Well, but that's like,
Yeah,
we knew that was gonna happen.
that's
Vikings
common.
was
That's common sense,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
yeah, and then the Vikings taking care of Seattle was huge. I was watching that game
That
at
was a
4
heck
o'clock.
of a
Oh
game,
yeah,
Great
and
game, yeah.
I stand firm by the fact that Vikings are like one of the fakest 13-2. They might be the fakest 13-2 team of all time. The
Yep.
way they win some of these games, it looks like someone cast a spell because it's almost actually it's almost worse than the Chiefs this year. Like they're winning games in ways that don't even make sense.
Yeah. By the way, last team they lost to, the LA Rams.
I
They
mean,
haven't lost a game since they played
of
us.
course.
So, man, I wouldn't mind seeing them again in the playoffs, man. I would not be scared
No,
to play
no,
them.
no, no. Not in fact,
I'm not.
out of the three teams that have that level of record, they're easily the one I want to see the most. You're talking about the
Yeah.
Lions, the Seahawks, the Vikings, and the Eagles.
Or like the Packers, for
No,
example. Like I'd much rather
thank
see
you.
Minnesota.
The only team I don't want to see is the Eagles or the Lions. Other than that, I'm cool with playing any other team.
it,
Agreed.
we talked last week
That's a
about
conversation for another time.
yeah, we talked last week about the Lions being banged up, and I just read on Twitter they got two starters on defense coming back because they have like 17 people out on defense or something ridiculous. I just saw a thing that they have 34% of their starters from week one are out, leading the NFL by like quite a bit. Um, and but they're getting back two key players at the two worst positions that they're most hurt at, corner and inside linebacker. So that's going to be helpful for them. But yeah, the Vikings are. I would just love to face the Vikings because you know what? Not only do we beat them, it's like oh, the Rams beat a really good team because they have a good record. So
Hmm.
it's kind of interesting in that way. Let's go ahead and move into our first topic of conversation today, which is the recap of the Rams Jets game. We won 19-9. It was probably a closer game than it appeared.
Yeah.
Both teams played
Absolutely.
pretty sloppily for the most part. I really thought there was very few positional groups on either team that really played well.
Hmm.
Really, when I kind of think about how to boil this game down to like the key events that happened, it was really just a matter of like our offensive line playing. But like
Yeah.
our offensive line was the best unit on the field all game
Right.
long, and that was the difference in the game. Like both teams had one turnover. The Our running game was better, but I think that was pretty heavily attributed to how well the offensive line played because like they have a really talented running back room as well, like Braylon Allen and Brees Hall, and they ran okay. They just weren't great, and that's their O line is obviously nowhere near ours. But
Yeah.
I can't think of a bigger differential in what helped the Rams win than the O line. That was our most dominant unit and the piece that really played the biggest part, I think.
Yeah, I would say O line, and
Yeah.
then like big tier down, second best unit was our DBs. I thought the DBs played pretty well.
I thought
Other
the
than that,
safeties played really well.
okay. I mean, I saw Darius make a couple plays
He
too. I
did.
thought,
Darius made a couple plays. He also got cooked a couple times, and Akello got cooked pretty much all game
yeah,
long.
Akello was up and down. Akello was up and down. He had a
Yeah.
couple
He had that one really
nice
nice play in
QBs,
the end zone, and
right?
then he was pretty much getting cooked
But
the
he
rest
also
of the
did
game.
get burned, yeah. And he gave up that
Yeah.
touchdown to Adams. Although that was honestly that was an unbelievable throw by Rodgers on that touchdown. But no excuses. He gave up the touchdown. So
Yeah, yeah, the game was like I said, it was a gritted out game in the cold. It was annoying, especially the first half. We couldn't really get anything going offensively. The defense was pretty bad too. They were moving the ball up the field. In the passing game specifically, Rogers, he looked vintage in that first half. He sort of came back to earth in the second half, so I get a defense credit right there. But
Yeah,
offensively, like you already said, the offensive line was good. I thought Kyron had his best game of the year. I thought Kyron was really good. He did a lot of good things, and the run game was probably the only thing that I would say was like the run game and offensive line were the only things that were like the super positive. I
Hmm.
think the passing game was sort of sporadic. It was all over the place. But yeah, the offensive line and running game, I would say those are the two clear positives of this game specifically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say it's probably Kyron's best game of the year, as low as that bar might be. I still think the O line heavily carried the water there, and the Jets' run defense was atrocious.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of the most. By the way, I feel like the Jets have just given up on the whole season. One of the main things that I noticed that I was like, oh, this team is either not trying or they're really bad. Is we had I think 3 or 4 pitch plays to Kyron, and those haven't gone anywhere all season long. They've been a really negative play all season, and all 4 of them were
Yeah.
really successful. I remember
Yeah.
going
They finally worked. Yeah.
either we're blocking better than we have all season, which is hard to believe, or the Jets' run defense is that bad. But I also just didn't. Their DBs didn't seem like they were even trying to get off the
Yeah.
blocks, and
You got the edge every time on those.
which is crazy because that's been a big weakness for our running game all season long.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, Kyron, he definitely had his best game of the season. Although we also had our best run play of the season, and it was Blake Corum, and it got called back. That
Mhm.
32-yard run was a work of art.
Oh, I forgot. I forgot about that one. That was a great
By
run,
the way,
man.
that
That was
wasn't
Davis.
like
Who?
that wasn't just like a 32-yard run. He actually like weaved in and out of traffic like 5 or 6
Yeah.
times and made multiple people miss. Like that was actually it wasn't one of those like one cut, hit the hole and you're gone for 32 yards. He actually like turned and went to the other end of the field and then cut back up. Like he was going crazy on that play.
Who,
Mhm.
who was that penalty on? Davis Allen or was that Hunter
I
Long?
think it was
It's
Hunter
Hunter
Long.
Long.
It was just like an
Hunter
illegal
Long.
motion because
Okay.
I think he was starting to move forward before the snap. Honestly,
It's a
Yeah.
ticky tack call, to be honest.
it didn't even impact the play. Like it's not like a hold where
No,
the hold
correct.
created the hole for Blake Corum. Like Blake Corum still did everything on
He
that.
earned every
Yeah.
yard he got in that play,
Yeah,
bro. In
yeah.
fact, I'm gonna
And
see if I can.
the commentators said the same thing. They said it was a ticky tacky type of call.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what's
Like
annoying is
technically, it's illegal because he was moving forward, but it literally didn't impact the play at all. So
Yeah. And usually they give guys leeway on that type of stuff.
they do. That's why
yeah,
it sucks because that was Blake's first like big run of his career, and
I thought he
yeah,
was gonna score it too, man.
so did I. So did I. But
yeah.
you know what? It's
Yeah.
funny. I think he got a little tired because he wasn't just running north to south. I said he was running to sidelines too because he was just evading
Hmm.
the traffic and making dudes miss. Like that run made me believe and see and think that like Blake it can be a legit starting running back in the NFL. Like that's
Yeah.
the kind of play that we've been wanting to see for the last several years. So it's really since Todd left.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
would you guys agree that was the most skillful, talented run we've seen since Todd left?
No, it was, and I can lend
Uh,
actual facts to that take is the fact that that was a 38-yard run, and the
Yeah.
longest run that Kyron Williams has this season is 30 yards. So whether
no,
you want to talk
I was
about what it looked like on tape or whether you want to talk about the numbers, I mean that was the best run of the year.
I
Um,
was I wasn't even thinking about Kyrie. I was thinking about because I know Cam Akers had like a crazy run his rookie year. I can't remember what team it was
he had
against.
he had a bunch to be honest. He had a
Yeah,
bunch
he
of
had like
rookie
I
season,
wasn't even thinking about Kyrie. I was
but
thinking about Cam because Cam rookie
yeah,
year he was pretty good for a stretch.
But you gotta remember, it's like I agree, but a lot of Cam stuff was one cut and gone, and this one being that how many people he made miss and how he had to bob and weave in and out of traffic was pretty darn
right,
impressive. Like that,
right. He made
Yeah.
yeah.
I
He
saw.
he made a
There was another running back. I think it was either Saquon or Jonathan Taylor who had a very similar run, and I was like, that's an elite level running back play, like elite.
right, right.
Hmm.
You guys
Um,
just want to go to? I had more on this, but I know we're not on offensive takeaways
yeah,
yet,
we can move
so
into it. Let's just
we're
go
gonna
for it.
go there. Yeah, just to touch on this a bit more. So first of all, I agree. Like he made a cut in the hole, and then he made a safety miss at the second level, which we haven't seen Kyron do
Hmm.
all season. And my overall take
Hmm.
on the running backs. So first, I agree with you guys. I think it actually was Kyron's best game of the season. Um, and I'm not gonna do the whole Kyron spiel today on this pod. We've talked about it a lot already. But in all seriousness, like just to give actual, I guess, constructive criticism to the guy who, again, I think did have a good game. And actually, to his credit, I just rewatched the game right before we recorded. He actually made a bunch people miss, in the hole a few times in that game. But
He did.
every time, my issue with Kyron is where I think he can improve. Let's just say that is when he gets to the second level, he's looking for contact. Like that's
Yeah.
not this isn't rugby. Like you don't want to push like it's nice to push the pile and it's nice to be a physical runner. But it really just crystallized for me when I was watching the game again, is that every time Kyron Williams gets to the second level, and you can rewatch his runs through and you'll
Yeah.
see it, it's like his nose, he has a nose to like find contact and hit someone. Like contrast that with Blake Corum we just talked about. He got to the second level, he made a guy miss, and there, boom, 38-yard run,
And just
longest carry of the season.
even when he's
So
not
that
making a guy miss, he's just genuinely avoiding traffic, which
right,
is like
which is
what
what
you're
you're
supposed to
supposed to
do.
do. Yeah, like
Hmm.
exactly. So that's all I got to say about
Absolutely.
Kyron. Like, good game. I still think, he can improve a lot in that regard, and maybe watch what Corum did. But
Uh, yeah, and you know what's a bummer for in my opinion is and we talked about this before earlier this season is that like it actually appears as though if they were utilized correctly, Kyron and Corum could be a really good 1-2 punch. The problem is that Corum should be the one and Kyron should be the two because Corum is better in space. He's better between the 20s. You have when you need 3 or 4 yards though, like Kyron does that well. When you need to push a pile, when you need to run in the red zone. There's a lot of situations where like let's just mirror the Lions, right? Like I would have Corum in the Jameer Gibbs role and I'd have Kyron in the David Montgomery role. Like pretty simple. If the run is going to the outside, I'd put Corum there. If the run is going inside the tackles, I would do that a lot with Kyron. Um the issue is that they love Kyron so much that's never going to ever happen.
Yeah, you know what? That is a super like I never really thought about it that much when it comes to if we had because those running backs, even though Corum and Kyron are probably lesser versions, they sort of mirror each other a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. Like Kyron Williams is sort of like a David Montgomery type of back, and Corum is sort of like a Jameer Gibbs type. Of course, Jameer better and David Montgomery better,
Yep.
but they sort of mirror each other a little bit. That's a
I
good
mean,
point.
but that would be if they were playing to their fullest extent and they were actually splitting touches the way that Montgomery and Gibbs would. I think generally that the possible, especially with this O line, that this running back
Mhm.
room could be top five, top seven. I really, really believe that, and I will say, with both of them, with both Kyron and Corum, that the O line does the heavy lifting there. But they're both guys who can take advantage of the great run blocking in different ways, right? Blake being the guy who can get to the second level, make guys miss, and get some of those more quick, bursty yards. And Kyron being a guy who's really able to push piles and dominate in a power running game. Um,
Yeah.
I wish we did use them more like that. And I do think that what's happening is I know a lot of people think Kyron's going to get an extension. I just there's two parts of this thought process, right? Like on one hand, they love Kyron seemingly more than any other player that's ever played for the Rams. Like their love for Kyron has no bounds. But on the other hand, they're also running Kyron into the ground, like
yeah,
legitimately running him into the ground. So part of me goes, "Oh, they're going to extend him. They love him." The other part of me goes, "Oh, they're clearly exercising this new running back strategy where you just draft running backs every 2 years and you just keep cycling through them, running them into the
yeah,
ground and going to the next guy."
which
That
is
would
smart.
which
I
is
love that.
smart, and it would also explain why Corum is getting so little touches. It's because they're trying to
Hmm.
keep him fresh. Remember, he also played all of
Hmm.
last year with a knee injury, and I think a
Yeah,
couple ankle injuries. He was hurt all season long in his last year in Michigan. So it wouldn't make sense that they're trying to give those legs time to recover. They're giving him rest so that when the time comes, they can give Corum the ball 350 times a season, which is what they're doing with
yeah,
Kyron right now, and just run him into the ground. Which I don't hate that idea. To be honest, I think it's smart because you don't paying a running back unless it's Saquon or Josh Jacobs or Bijan Robinson or Kenneth Walker or Derrick Henry is I think genuinely a bad idea. Looks like we lost Joe. But yeah, it has to be
No,
one of those two things, right?
no,
yeah,
it's good. I had to like that one
Oh,
back.
okay.
Thank
Welcome
yeah.
back. Anyways, yeah,
No, I agree with
Kyron's
you.
best game
I
of the
mean,
season.
even if we won't argue right now about how good we think Kyron Williams is, but like even if you are really high on him, like paying running backs almost never ever works. And like Ethan kind of just said it, but the exception is like the truly special elite guys. Like I'm talking like Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, like Todd Gurley if his knee wasn't messed up, like that type of ilk. And like I'm sorry, Kyron's not that. Like even if you're higher on him than I am, that's fine, but he's not like a truly special running back.
Well, and the guys that you pay money to are guys that can do everything, right? And what I mean by that is, I mean, look, even if you thought Kyron was this dynamic runner, which at 4.1 yards a carry is hard to argue, he's basically useless in the receiving game, right? He's a good pass
Yeah.
blocker, even though he's had some bad moments this year. He's still a very good pass blocker. Um, but the guys you're paying are basically elite in the run game. They're elite in the pass game, and they're elite blockers, like your Derrick Henrys, your Saquon Barkley's, your Josh Jacobs, those kinds of guys. Which, by the way, we all kind of wanted the Rams to sign any one of those three guys before the season started, which wasn't going to happen.
Saquon, yeah.
By the way,
dude,
even when you do pay those running backs and they're good, a lot of times even then it's not worth it.
no,
Like the bar, I mean, it almost never works out when you pay a running back big. Period. Even if you look at Saquon Barkley, that was a great signing. That was later in his career when actually it didn't cost that much. It didn't cost as much as you might think.
it's
Like he
true.
didn't get like huge money.
Well, the other thing is remember the building of a team is all about resource allocation, right? And
Right.
what to your point with Derrick Henry and with Saquon Barkley, you can basically plug almost anyone into those elite level O lines and they'll produce well. I'm not saying that those guys aren't better and they're not producing better, but are they producing $15 million a year better than a rookie running back could or would under behind elite level run blocking? Like that's hard to argue, man, because like Saquon gives you like let's just say Saquon puts up 2,500 all-purpose yards. The Eagles' O line is so good. Like you could have like Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks, one of those elite running backs from this last draft, probably could put up 2,000 yards behind, or at least 1,800 behind an elite O line, right? And then you have $15 million you can spend elsewhere. So the argument behind paying an elite running back is really not good. Even the really elite guys, because 15 million bucks is a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of
It's just
money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is, man. So me, for my offensive takeaways, well, first thing first, I just want to say congratulations to Tyler Higbee.
Yeah.
He's an OG. He's an OG Ram. He's been with us for so long, bro. In the heydays of the Jared Goff, Todd Gurley Rams, he was there, and him coming back from the injury he had in the first round last year, and actually scoring a touchdown. And actually, the funny thing about it, me and Ethan talked about it.
Yeah.
That play he made was probably the best play we've gotten from a tight end all season,
In the
which is
last
sad.
last two
But
seasons.
last two seasons, which is sad, but it's actually cool, and I'm glad Tyler Higbee's back.
It's
He's
a
a you know oh, go ahead.
No, it's a great story, right? He's actually
Yeah.
been really
Yeah, it's a great
hurt for
story, bro.
several years. It's a redemption
Yeah,
story. I still want Higby gone in the offseason. But you know what it really like to the what we were talking about, because we just need we need a tight end weapon. Like we need a
I
weapon at
agree.
tight end. And
Yeah, I agree.
hmm
I still think Higby's washed, and I hate to say that because I really like Higby, and Higby was one of those guys who proved me wrong. Like I did not think he would be a great pro for a long time, and in his first 2 years, remember he was actually really bad, and then he just started
yeah,
blossoming, and he ended up being a really solid starter for a long time. But I still think Higby's washed. But you know what I learned from watching literally that one play is just how bad our other tight ends are. Like
Yeah,
they're
he's still way
actually,
yeah,
better than what we have.
which is
He's
right. Which
crazy.
is crazy.
which is crazy.
Which is crazy.
And
Yeah.
let's
And
be real, tight end drafting has actually been really successful the last few years. Whether you're talking
Yeah.
about like
It's
Michael
strong.
Mayer, Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta, you got the guys out in Green Bay, Luke
Tucker
Tucker
Craft,
Kraft and Luke Schumacher is doing well. You got
yeah,
Dalton Kincaid is
Trey
doing well.
McBride,
Dude,
Trey
tight
McBride.
end drafting has been it's been the most successful the last few years that it has been ever.
Even though even what's name's kind of decent in Pittsburgh. Fryermuth, he's okay too.
Yeah, Firemood's
And
good.
Darnell Washington
Yeah,
is starting to do some stuff as well. And we were
yeah,
kind of big on his not his short term but his long term value. Like
yeah,
I would not be upset at all if the Rams drafted a tight end. There's actually a few that we've been looking at. We haven't done our full tight end film watching and stuff, but there's a couple guys that look interesting. Um,
Yeah.
I might even sign someone like, bro, you can't have an empty room. What I mean by empty room is that like the only thing you can count on a tight end to do with the LA Rams today is catch the ball and then fall. Like that's the only thing for
yeah,
sure you can count on them to do, which is
In the receiving game, yeah.
yes,
in the
They're
receiving game.
decent players.
Yes.
But yeah, I agree. We need to upgrade there. That's been a problem literally the entire time Sean McVay's been here.
And that's a great
Uh,
shout
Yeah.
out. Higby's been through a lot of
yeah,
stuff.
Yes, man. He has, man.
He was injured before he got hurt on that hit, and he's just been going through a lot of injury. Like the last 4 years, he's been on and off injury. So
yeah. I
Yeah,
do think
man.
it is a legitimate galvanizing force, as corny or dramatic as that sound. You saw the way the team reacted when he scored that touchdown. Like that's real. Like they're really that
totally.
really fired them up and they're rallying around him. So
Yeah,
I
man,
think
that's super dope. And I know
it's a legitimate positive
oh,
for
go
us to
ahead.
have back. And there was a
Yeah.
couple like kick out and kick out blocks he made that were nice.
Yeah.
So he's a good blocker. He's a decent receiver. It's good to have him. But most importantly, it's more so that he's just way better than what we have behind him at tight end, like you said. So I'm happy to have him back.
Yep. And
Yeah.
go ahead.
I know. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, besides the Higby story, we already talked about this being Kyron's best game. I think the O line was the only unit on either team that was truly dominant at
Mm-hmm.
all. O line
That's
is just
loud.
they just keep moving up, bro. I
Yeah.
think Stafford has barely been touched since the O line became healthy, but the
Yeah.
run blocking has been dominant all season long. We talked about it last week, but it's ranked in the top three by like 3 or 4 different websites that rank O line run blocking and pass blocking. The O line's just been dominant in the run game. Stafford
Mm-hmm.
had probably one of his worst 2 or 3 games of the season. He just looked inaccurate and
Right.
even on like really simple short plays, there was I can remember 2 or 3 off the top of my head, at least maybe 3 or 4 to Puka and Cup where they had to go down catching the ball because it just wasn't thrown accurately. But there was a lot of space that they had been able to catch it firm and just been able to run
Yeah.
afterwards. A
Almost
lot of
right.
extra yards. It was just I don't know if it was the cold or if maybe Stafford's dealing with some aches and pains or injuries that we don't know about. But it just seemed the whole passing game seemed out of rhythm. Um,
Yep.
Yeah,
we,
I want to see. Speaking of Stafford, I want to see him and back in the dome, back in SoFi on Saturday night because I want to see was it the weather or was it is he starting to get injured? So that's an
Yeah. I
interesting
mean, I think
thing I want to look at.
both things are true where first of all, no excuse, no defense. I don't think Stafford played well. I don't think the passing game played well. But I also think it was a situation where the weakness of the Jets defense is their run defense.
yes.
We're running it well. It's working. I think McVay just didn't overthink it and just said working.
Absolutely.
And I think like again, both things are true where it can be like for me it's a negative and a positive. Like it is slightly concerning about the pass offense, but I also look at it like, wow, we won a game on the road with Matthew Stafford only throwing, 19 times. Like I didn't really think we were built to win games like that. So it could be seen as a positive and a negative for me. That's kind of I don't know, that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
and I pulled up the stats because I want to show basically. Yeah, I think both things are true. And the kind of proof was in the pudding here, where it was like we only threw 19 times compared to 31 runs. That kind of shows me that McVay said, "Hey, the passing offense isn't working. The Jets' pass defense is much better than its run defense." So it tells me that it was a game plan thing. It also tells me that in the 19 attempts that we did have, Stafford wasn't effective at all, and that probably
Mhm.
just cemented the idea of, "Hey, let's just keep pounding the rock because it's working."
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah,
Puka had an okay game. I mean, Cup was only targeted 3 times. I think he had zero yak because of those passes just being
Yeah.
immediate. Like he had
They
to
were like
dive for them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
hmm
So
he had
overall, go ahead.
oh yeah no, I was just literally going to reiterate what you said that like how many targets you said he had?
Cup,
Yeah.
3 catches, 3 targets. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think probably on two of those he was literally sliding on the
Yes.
ground to catch the ball. So
Yeah.
that probably tells you it was some bad throws that probably affected his jack.
Yeah.
I think the same thing happened to Puka, to be honest, which is why like the yards per catch and the yards per attempt are both pretty bad. It was
Yeah.
just, but like, look, to that extent, we've been asking Sean to do this, right? We've been asking him to like go with the hot hand, whether it's passing or running. We've been asking him to scheme based on the strengths and weaknesses of the opposing defenses, and to that extent, Sean did that well. That front seven for the Jets was simply not beating our O line in the run game
Right.
at all,
hmm
or the pass game for that matter.
hmm
That was that's the concerning part about the one. If you got to do one concerning thing about the pass game is that Stafford was really never pressured. and was
Yep.
inaccurate all day. Um, that's a little concerning, but like I said, it was just one of those games. So I'm happy to take the win away. O line dominant. You guys ready to any more offensive takeaways? Are we moving on to defense?
Yeah, just last
Uh,
thing really quick is
Go ahead,
saying
Bill.
the obvious. It was just yet another game where we were awful in the first quarter. When we talk about like, how we can improve and how we can actually make some noise in the playoffs and beat really good teams. I mean, you just have to start fast. So that was upsetting to see that same issue popping up yet again. That was all. That was the only other thing I had there.
Yeah.
yeah, me. Real quick. Other than running the ball, and the passing being kind of finicky. One thing I did really like specifically in the offense was, and I know we sort of went over it a little bit about Stafford not making the throws. I did like how McVay game planned, and I know Ethan talked about this as well. How McVay game planned and made it very simple and just stuck to, because we had complaints early in the season to where some games he tries to do too much
Yeah, yeah.
and doesn't stick to what's working. Against the Jets, he stuck to what's working. He ran, 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 threw a screen here and there.
Quick
Stafford had to
passes,
throw,
short
yeah, quick
passes.
passes. He did what was needed, and I did appreciate that from Sean.
Yeah. I mean, overall, you can't complain a whole lot. Offense wasn't super effective, but it did what needed to be done to win the game. So
Right.
let's move
Yep.
on to defensive takeaways. On this side of the ball, I thought it was a lot more simple in the fact that we just. I, I know it's crazy because we only let up 9 points, but I wasn't very impressed on the defense side of the ball. Our D line was
I
basically
wasn't either, bro.
non-existent. Rose
Hmm.
Boom was awful. Spates was actually great in that game. He was
Hmm.
probably the best defender that I saw. Kind of a Spates, Kinchin's, Curl were the three studs
Yeah.
on defense, and the rest of the defense was kind of like D Will had a couple nice pass breakups and a couple nice plays. Akello had one really nice one in the end zone
Hmm.
against Devontae, I think it was,
Yeah, it was
and
Devontae.
Hmm.
but he got cooked. Like he must have let up like at least 4 or 5
Yeah.
catches for some yards and a touchdown. Yeah, it was. It's weird to say that on a 9 point. Like we're almost being more complimentary of the offense than we are the defense, even though I guess the defense looked better because allowing 9 points is good, scoring 19 is not good. But
Right.
the box score doesn't always tell the story, right? Like that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was basically a tale of two. It was a tale of two halves, really.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, the first half it was pretty bad. This was probably the first game where I watched the defensive line, even though they really weren't that good against the Bills and maybe another game. But this is the first time I watched the defensive line. And I was genuinely like upset and frustrated because the Jets' offensive line isn't great. Olu Fashanu, their left tackle,
Ah,
the rookie out of Penn State, he's been okay. I think they say he's only given up one sack the whole season, so that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
But we weren't getting pressure at all. We weren't touching Aaron Rodgers for like 3 quarters. 3 quarters of the game, we wasn't touching Aaron Rodgers. And I think that was really concerning in that game. I guess it was super cold, so you could probably attribute that to it a little bit. But the D line's supposed to be dogs, man. Those we call them the first and force them all year. So I think that was pretty disappointing. That was the main thing I really got from it. The secondary was good. Space was really really good. He had some plays that popped on my screen a lot. Like you said, the safety were good, but the defensive line let me down this game. And I think hopefully against Arizona on Saturday, they come out on fire and they make up for it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Tale of two halves. Second half, I thought they were really good. Our keys,
Yeah.
a couple of us, we had keys to victory last week was holding Devonte Adams and Garrett Wilson in check. I think we did that for the most part. They
Mhm.
were, they were hot coming off their game against
they helped
Jacksonville,
us
and
too. They dropped a lot of balls. Both of them. I
they,
think they
they
each
did drop.
dropped 2 balls.
Yeah, they dropped a couple. That's
Yeah,
true.
I
And they
mean,
had a couple off throws from
I'm not
Rodgers.
even gonna take anything away from us, but like they played awful on both sides of the ball. Their coaching
Yeah.
is terrible. Like they're a badly coached team. They look like they're not even trying. The drop balls by two of the best receivers in football is just insane. Rogers looked multiple times like he was just like, "What are we doing?" Like he looked pissed off multiple times, like he didn't even know what the team was doing. I know
Yeah.
there was one point late in the
Yeah.
game where he wanted the coach to call timeout and he didn't, and it was like it wasn't going to be a game changer, but you still make the right decisions even when the game might be a little out of reach, right? I think there was 2:27 left. The Jets had run a play, and he was like trying to get him to call a timeout, and they didn't, and they went down to 2 minutes, and then we punted, and the game was over. Or they punted, and the game was over. So it's like just
Yeah.
weird stuff.
And And they're
Yeah,
also they're 4-11 for a reason. Like
Hmm.
they're an awful team. So awful teams gonna do awful stuff during the games.
yeah, for sure. But they're an awful talented team, and there
Yeah.
is a difference, and there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm probably a little bit higher on how the DBs did than you are, which is fine. I get what you're saying. I thought situationally, I thought we were good too. Like fourth and goal, we get a stop. Fourth and one after a turnover, we get a huge stop.
Yeah,
Goal,
I agree.
red zone, we did pretty well. So yeah, I thought situationally we were good. Um, so yeah, overall, but Joe, you said it too. Is like it was surprising to see the front four not be dominant against that O line, and if anything,
Hmm.
thought the back end played better than the D line, which to me is
Yeah.
that should never happen, considering
Yeah.
in my opinion, the talent difference there. So that was my biggest takeaway was that our D line didn't dominate like I thought they would. So.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Same.
I guess specifically in the pass rush, I should say, because they did pretty
Yeah.
well against the run, I guess.
Against the run.
I
Yeah, they did
actually,
okay against
I
the run.
actually thought they weren't very good against the run. I thought
Okay.
the supplemental run stoppers in both safeties and Spates was the key to
Right,
stopping the run. I didn't
right.
think the defensive line made a lot of run stops. I saw guys coming up and making stops.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's not like that they just had a bad running day. It just wasn't a good one.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, this was definitely their worst game of the season. I think the D line.
Who? The D line. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
D
That's
line.
totally
Yeah,
fair. I mean, when you take
it's
into
close
account
to it.
like the O line they're going against, and then dude, Rogers is kind of mobile still at this point
yeah.
in his career, but it's still like he shouldn't be like making guys miss. I mean,
Even the strip sack. Who
like,
was that?
that was Cam
That was
Curl,
Cam
right? Exactly.
Curl. It
Cam Curl.
wasn't.
Yeah,
And by the way,
Yeah.
that was a high motor play. Like he didn't get through originally, and then Rogers tried to escape, and he shed his block, and he made the strip sack fumble.
right.
That was actually like a
Mhm.
really good play by Cam Curl. And I saw someone on Twitter who was like, "What an excellent play call!" Because it looked like we were blitzing with 6, and then we only rushed 4, and you couldn't tell who was being rushed because Byron Young and Michael Hoyt ended up dropping into coverage,
Oh
and
God.
Curl went in. They're like, great play call by Shula. I was like, it didn't actually work. There was just no one open, and then Curl
Right.
made a great play. Like the actual play call itself didn't create an opening like it should. When you do stunts and you fake the defense out, it's supposed to create an opening. It didn't. Curl just played really well that play and made it happen. Like,
Yeah.
not to like bag on Shula, but that was just that was a dog play. Like he just kept
Hey
going.
man, you know what? I actually thought that was a good play call. The only reason why I thought it was a good play call, not from the what happened, but it was the how creative it was, how they had Cam Curl looked like he was gonna go back and drop, but he didn't drop.
Yeah,
He ended up blitzing at the last second. I thought it was pretty creative. So it's like I've seen that play multiple times from other coordinators, but
sure.
I'm trying to level it to like Shula's level. So somebody on his level, that was a
No, no,
creative
no.
play
I,
call.
I do agree. The play in itself was creative. It is, yeah, like you
Mhm.
said, it's a play a lot of people run. I'm just saying
Yeah.
it didn't catch the Jets off guard. They were ready for it and they
No,
stopped it, and then it just happened that like Curl didn't give up, and then there was nobody open.
no,
So
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you rewatch the play, we didn't get there quick at all. To your
no,
point,
it was like
Rogers,
four and a half
Rogers,
Yeah.
seconds.
yeah, Rogers held it forever, and to that just
Yeah.
backs up all of our points too about the pass rush. Just to bring a little bit more, so that was the only sack of the game.
Yeah,
That one sack
that was the only
that was
QB hit, by
Cam
the way.
Curl, and it wasn't even like we just said. It wasn't like he got there fast. It was more of a coverage sack where Rogers held it way too
Hmm.
long and no one was open. So eventually Cam Curl was going to get there, but the pass rush wasn't
By
there
the way, my boy
in
Spates.
general. Like,
Yeah, totally. My boy Spates, though, he didn't just have several really good run stops. He actually had a pass deflection too. Like
yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah.
starting to
On
turn
Adams,
in a great one.
on Devontae Adams, by the
A
way,
great.
the PBU on Devontae Adams. That was
He's
crazy.
starting to turn into like an all-around really good player,
Yeah, yeah,
which is
yeah,
exciting
yeah,
to see. Another 6 round. No, he was UDFA gem. Whatever.
yeah.
Same difference, really.
Yeah, Spates is playing really well, man.
He has been,
Yeah,
man.
he had like one bad play, which was a swing pass to Brees Hall where he got dusted in the open field. But that's
Yeah.
really the only
By the
knock I
way,
can give him. That's gonna happen. It's Brees
yeah,
Hall. I mean,
yeah,
he's the first
exactly.
round. Other than that, I thought he was rock solid. I don't understand these PFF grades sometimes, man. Like they gave him a low grade. I watched the game. I thought he was all over the place, making good plays, and
Mhm.
crucial plays. Obviously, the fourth down stop, and so
Look,
I thought he.
anytime that you have a grading system that requires people to give a subjective opinion on what they think is happening, it's going to not make sense all the time.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
That's the bottom
And,
line. And
and I think he got knocked for. I don't even want to cares what their grades are, but I know he got knocked for allowing yards in coverage, which to me that's a Chris Shula problem. If you're
Mhm.
relying on Omar Speights to be covering Tyler Conklin, 15 yards downfield, then that's on the DC. But anyway, that's a conversation.
linebackers, honestly, how many linebackers in the NFL are successful in coverage outside of like 15 yards deep and more? It doesn't
Right.
happen. And so that you're right, that is a Chris Shula problem. Our guys should be being put in those positions. Even like your best
Mhm.
defend, like Fred Warner, Roquan Smith, your best coverage guys in the NFL at inside linebacker are not successful regularly at 15, 20 plus yards downfield. They're successful playing man on guys who don't go that far downfield, like tight ends or running backs, or they're successful in short zone. And yeah, so our guys are being put constantly in bad positions, which is why we see like Michael Hoyt lined up against Garrett Wilson or Devontae
That's
Adams or
awful,
stupid stuff
man.
like that. But all right, let's move
Yeah.
on to stock up offense. Who wants to get us going?
Ooh, I'll go first, real fast. I'm gonna do something that I haven't done since earlier in the season.
Oh my
His
gosh,
stock
here
has
we
been
go.
so low, but I'm starting to see just like the AMC stock a couple years ago. I'm starting to see the green blip go up a little bit, just a little slowly. So I'm gonna say stock up Kyron Williams today.
You know what's really
I'm
funny?
gonna throw some in that stock. Go ahead.
You know what's funny is you compared it to the AMC stock, and AMC's valuation didn't rise. It was all artificial. People were just
See,
saying it, and it happened.
I
It
remember
didn't
that.
make it true.
I remember that. Listen. I remember that
Yeah,
because I still don't think Kyron is good. But I saw something in that Jets game that I liked, so I'm going to give him a stock up. Like you said, could be artificial. It's probably not real.
he's
But
playing.
I
He's
did like
playing.
what I
He's
see.
playing and running harder than he was earlier. Like that's not
Um,
debatable.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's sad that
So I'm
that's
gonna
just
I'm gonna give
starting.
Kyron a stock up.
That's
Yep.
it's fair. I will allow it.
Fair stock up for sure. Yeah, because it's you're comparing him to him. You're not comparing him
True.
to running backs in football. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So
absolutely.
I'll give Kyron Woods a stock up this week.
Okay. I'll go. So I have Tyler Higbee. We touched on it. I just
Uh,
think, obviously he's not some
that's
great
a
tight
good one,
end,
Will.
world beater, but I do think he's a legitimate positive. I think he's much better than the other tight ends on the roster. And having him, I think, by the way, that touchdown that he scored, I watched that play a few times. When the play starts and you see Higbee, like right when Higbee catches the ball, I didn't think he was going to
No
score
way.
there.
No way.
Like, he was a little bit more agile than I remembered. And actually, the dive, I don't want to call it a dive, it was like a jump. He
Hmm.
went pretty far to score that touchdown in the air, and
Yeah.
He jumped
I
from the
guess it just
5 yard
made me
line.
realize like this guy is like fully healthy. Now they did take their sweet ass time bringing him back. Like I feel like he could have probably suited up a week or two earlier,
Sure.
but they took their time. But he looks like fully healthy. He looks agile, even though it was just one play. I mean, you can see a lot in one
Hmm.
play. Yeah,
Yeah,
Tyler Higbee, Sacco. I'm glad to have him back.
That's an interesting. I think.
yeah.
I think definitely part of the problem that you're experiencing with like is PTSD because our guys don't do anything after the catch.
Right,
So you're
right,
expecting them to just
right,
catch the ball
right.
and fall over like somebody
Yeah,
murdered them.
yeah.
So yeah, I like that one. I'm gonna be pretty
Yeah.
simple. My stock up is gonna be Bo Limmer. Um,
Mhm.
for a couple of reasons, but the main one is so earlier in the season, Bo Limmer was the guy who wasn't allowed. He didn't allow like a pressure for like 4 straight games. Remember that? And his pass
Hmm.
blocking's been pretty elite and all that stuff. But he had like 3 or 4 plays in the run game where he got like out onto the perimeter and was making blocks at the second level, like really good blocks at the second level. That's not a part of Bo Limmer's game that we've seen him excel at yet. He's not been bad, but like he exceeded expectations and he was like really good on the perimeter doing some of those swing blocks and some even on a couple of the
Yeah.
screens. Remember we had that Dotson play last week where he like took out 2 guys, but Limmer had a play like that this week too where he knocked a guy down and then went to the second level and knocked another guy down. That has not been a part of Bo Limmer's game that we've seen him do much at all. So Bo Limmer's starting to turn into a guy who's like legit, like very, very good center. We keep like he keeps like getting slowly not because he went from like a 6 round guy that we liked to like, oh, he could actually be a starter for the future, and now it's like, oh, Bo Limmer might actually be really good on both sides in both the run game and the pass game. Like he's getting to the point where like I wouldn't be surprised if Bo Limmer got a couple Pro Bowls in his future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not at the all pro
Yeah.
level yet, but like he makes some stuff happen in both like big openings in both the run and the pass game. Like so, Bo Limmer stock up.
I like
Yeah,
it.
and real quick on Tyler Higbee, because I know Will was saying that he's a boost to the team. He's excited. I looked how excited he was, but in the interview after the game, he said that he was so excited after he scored a touchdown. He was saying that he literally thought he was about to pass out. That he almost passed out. That's how excited he
Yeah,
was, and
yeah,
I guess that's just super cool. Is getting that moment from Tyler Higbee.
Yeah.
totally. Stock up defense.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
you go,
you
Joe.
go.
You'll go first.
You want me to go? Okay.
Yeah.
My stock up on defense was I know I might steal this one from you, Will. So we got the same one. My stock up was Cam Curl.
Okay.
I haven't gave Cam Curl a stock up in a while, and I just think for the last 4 maybe 5 weeks, he's been getting better. He's been really solid. He's every game he seems to make a play like a pass breakup or a nice hit or something. And against the Jets, he made a probably that was the play that probably won us the game. That fumble, then we ended up scoring after that, and I think that probably took the game out of reach. So
Yeah.
I would say stock up Cam Curl. He's been really impressive for a minute now.
Yeah. I did have the same one. Yeah, I mean he made the play of the game.
Yeah.
That fumble was the play of the game. Um, he also had a couple nice PBUs. I remember one off the top of my head, definitely. I remember one on Conklin that was really good coverage, and I think too the safety position. Like a lot of times, it's not so much like highlights, but it's like if someone had a quiet day in a way that means they had a good day because it means for his safety like it means you're not getting burned over the top. I just think he's been solid, he's been steady. The staff Shula has been learning how to use him better. They've gotten smarter with how they're using him, and I think both him and Cam Kinchens are just really getting more comfortable at the safety position. But I'm going to give it to Curl this time.
Well, I'm gonna go Kinchins. So I'll balance it out for you. Man, here's why it's a stock up. When we watched this film at Miami, his
Mhm.
instincts and his deep ball coverage was instantly. He's a ball hawk. He's a playmaker, right? Specifically, we noticed that like that was the strength of his game, and I talked about on Sunday yesterday when we were discussing um, the game. I mentioned Omar, and I want to give a honorable mention to Omar Spates. He deserves a shout out.
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly that too.
Absolutely.
And
Omar
Yeah.
Spence deserves a mention for
these two
sure.
guys have the same story because I've gone from thinking good prospects. I thought they were both good prospects. I like that we got them both. I was big. My buddy Ryan was huge on Omar Spates, and so I watched this film and I started to really like him. Um, and Cam Kinchens we knew was going to had potential to be a good deep safety, right? But I'm now at the point where I'm starting to think both of these guys can be long term starters, and I'll tell you why. Because the biggest a lot most guys who get drafted and even your UDFAs who make it to the NFL are good in college to some level and some degree, right? Like they're all
Hmm.
talented or they wouldn't be making the NFL, with the exception of a few guys like Kyron and stuff. But um that was a joke. But no, Kyron was actually really good in college. But
Yeah, he
so
was.
but Omar and Cam Kitchen specifically, right? And I will even in this regard put them over Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. And the fact that and I'll you know what, I'll throw Bo Limmer in there, even though we're doing stock up defense. But like they've all three of those guys, Bo Limmer, Cam Kitchens, Omar Spates, have improved their games substantially since becoming pros. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that Jared Verse and Braden Fisk haven't improved. I'm saying they were dominant in college already, so they're
Uh-huh.
improving. But like Cam Kinchens has actually been really good in the run game this season, like very good in the run game. Like I've been blown away by his run support from that D safety position. Omar Spates
Hmm.
we saw watching his college film how good he was as like a bullet train through the gaps to stop the run. But he's been better in coverage than we thought he would be, and he's been better against the run even than I thought he would be too. And Bo Limmer has been better in both the pass blocking and run. Like NFL level growth from a player is like the biggest sign of whether they're going to get better and better and better and be really good professionals, because growth is what it's all about, right? Like that's what sustains long-term growth is showing that you have the ability to get better at certain areas that you're deficient in. And so for
Yeah,
specifically for stock up defense, Omar Spates and Cam Kinchens have shown to me some legitimate heavy growth in their game from when they were in college even to the NFL level, and I that deserves a huge shout out. And it got me thinking that both of these guys are going to be long term starters for the LA Rams.
Yeah. I think that's a
absolutely.
really good point. I think Cam Kinchens is the single most improved player on when you look at how he played to start the season versus now. I think he's the most improved
Yeah,
player on the team.
100%.
Absolutely.
And you know that's not just growth at the NFL level, but growth from like what you thought they could be as pros. They're both doing things that I didn't that were not clearly evident in the college film that they were able to do at a high level. So for them, so glad to have these guys. That's two holes less than we used to have from
Right.
a guy
Yep.
drafted what in the fourth round and a guy that was undrafted. Then you
Yes,
throw
sir.
Yeah,
in, and I still think Tyler Davis could be a future nose tackle for this team,
Me too.
and then Bo Limmer is definitely looking like the starting center of the future. We could between the sixth round, like between fourth round to the end of the season, we could be looking at like 5 or 6 starters,
Yep.
yeah,
like future
absolutely.
starters. That's unbelievable drafting. All right, let's move on to stock down offense. Um, I'll
Um,
I'll go real quick. I'm just gonna say the passing game as a whole was just utterly ineffective. I think the majority of that is lies with Matthew Stafford. I thought is inaccurate and making poor decisions all game long. But the fact of the matter is that we weren't even having very good success on our screens or short passes either.
Hmm.
Um, it
Yeah.
just didn't seem to click at all. It just seemed like it was out of whack.
Mm. Yep.
yeah, I agree. I had the same thing. The passing game, that was the stock down for me. It's super simple. It wasn't really effective the whole game, really. The running really got it. The running game really won us that game. So
Totally.
same passing game.
Yeah. I have Demarcus Robinson. We've talked about this a few
Yeah.
times. It's just getting even lower for me. I just think he gives us nearly nothing. I mean, that's probably being harsh because he's had a couple of good games, but
Yeah.
he's just not giving us enough, man. You have Puka Nakua and Cooper Cup commanding all this attention, all this coverage, and he's just not doing enough. I even think
Totally.
Tutu Atwell the last couple of games has given us more than Demarcus Robinson. Like Tutu Atwell made a clutch third down conversion that led to on a scoring drive. Like it wasn't much, but it was more than D Rob gave us. So just stock down D Rob.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, like OJ has said in the last couple of weeks, is D Rob is has had one good game all season and a handful of good catches, and besides that, he's been invisible, man. And he's
Right.
leading the receiving room in snaps. To me, that's
Right.
just utterly unacceptable.
Crazy. Yeah.
So yeah, great stock down. Stock down defense. Um,
Um,
I feel like it's only right that I stock down the fearsome foursome because I've been stocking those guys up like almost every single week.
yeah.
And
I had the same exact thing.
now Braden Fist did have a sack taken away, like a legit solid sack taken away by a penalty that was it was actually offsetting penalties, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, because he got held, remember, and then he
Yeah.
still got the sack even though he was being held, but
Yeah,
it was D Will who got a hands to the face, and so that sucked. But overall, I think they were just bad. It was their worst game of the season, and
hmm
what's crazy is like you talked about, it was a dirty game, it was a gritty game, and it was a cold game. And in those
Mhm.
kinds of games, you generally it becomes trench warfare, right? I think I said that as my key to victory last week was it's going to be an
you
outdoor
did.
game in New York in December. It's going to be cold, and we just need trench warfare, man. And they came up short, really short against a really bad O line. So you can't. I mean, who else are you going to stock down besides them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would literally reiterate the same thing. Is the defensive line. They underwhelmed. They underwhelmed. Not underwhelmed, but they underachieved in the
Mm-hmm.
last night. Well, yesterday in that Jets game. Not touching Rodgers not one time. I think we said already they only had one QB hit, and that was from Cam Curl. Even it wasn't even from them. So that was disappointing to me. So stock down the defensive line.
Yeah, I have the same thing. The pass rush, I just said pass rush. I mean, you could almost see it as a compliment. It's like the expectations that I have for this unit are so high because I know how
Hmm.
talented they are. So to see them not dominate a bad O line, to me, that's a slight stock down. That's pretty
Totally.
much it.
I agree.
Totally. All right, let's move
Yeah,
on
I agree.
to actually before we move on to the preview for next week. I'm going to transition us, but I want to have a quick conversation about where the Rams are currently as a team in how it relates to the playoffs. It's an interesting situation. We
Gotcha.
want to touch on it real quick. Basically, we are winning the division,
Hmm.
and we can seal that up. No, we can't. We can't seal it up till the last week of the season, right?
Well, no,
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 the
we
Seahawks
can
lose, it's
still we
over. But like us
no.
personally, we can't.
Even if the Seahawks win, we can seal it up week 17. But it goes to like we said, that strength of victory, that strength of
Okay,
victory
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a super, it's super
It's
complicated.
honestly
I don't know if we want
probably
to go through
it's
the whole
honestly
thing.
probably too complicated to like get into all the scenarios right now because we did it
Yeah,
before we
it's super
recorded and it was really
complicated.
deep. But the simple take
Yeah,
on it is if we beat the Arizona Cardinals this week, there's a good chance that with that win over the Cardinals, we could still make the playoffs. We could still win the division, even with a loss against Seattle in the last game.
It is
Because
yeah,
there's some
uncomfortably
tiebreakers that go in
weird.
our favor.
It is uncomfortably weird, and I'd rather not go down that road.
Yeah, me neither.
Basically, we're really similar. Here's the tiebreaker rules when you're tied for a division, right? Um, it's head to head. So if we lose to the Seattle Seahawks in Week 18, it would be 1-1 head to head. The best one loss tie percentage in games within the division, we would be tied in this scenario that we're discussing. In common games, we would be tied. In conference games, we would be tied. So you're talking about strength to victory, which requires
Crazy.
some teams that the Seahawks beat to lose, and some teams that we beat to win. Like there's a lot of things out of our control and out of the Seahawks' control that starts to become a factor in this
Right.
situation. So it gets a little wonky. And then if
Yeah.
we tie on strength of victory, which is possible, we would go to strength of schedule. There's there's a lot of things that end up being totally out of our control, meaning the Rams' control. Um,
yeah,
so best case scenario, we beat the Cardinals and
yeah.
Seahawks, and we're
And
guaranteed to win the division.
Yeah.
And also the funny thing, the Seahawks fans though, I don't think they want to go to strength of victory either because we're already up like 4 or 5 games
Yes.
already. So they would need some teams to win out, which you never want to be in a situation where you need teams to win out. That's not that's not really a good thing to be in. So that's really bad for not bad for us, but it's really not the best thing for us, and it's bad for them actually.
Yeah.
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 And so before we do the preview, I wanted to make sure kind of we reiterated that like this game against the Cardinals is unbelievably important. This is
It's huge.
probably the
It's
most important game of the season, I would say.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then also
Yeah.
for the people out there, on Saturday, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a if the Rams win this game, this scenario needs to happen for them to win the division. I'm pretty sure the league will probably make something up and they'll announce it during the game what needs to happen for us to win the division anyway. So you could
Yeah,
probably wait for that.
the we'll probably see this as well. If we beat the Cardinals, we're probably going to see a graphic that says like the Rams have like a 90+% chance to win the division. Even if we
Yeah.
lose to the
Yeah,
Seahawks, we're still very likely to win the division. But
Right.
a lot of
yeah,
things out of our control that could go wrong, that would have to go wrong, could go wrong. We don't want to be in that situation that where if some teams win games and we lose the Seahawks, we're out of the division win. So
Mhm.
that's why this game is so important. Now let's dive in and let's talk about. Let's just go right into the Rams offense versus Cardinals defense. I think it's pretty interesting. Both teams are pretty much getting really healthy for the first time all season. Darius, I'm on the Cardinals. Let's start with the Rams. We're fully healthy on offense right now. There's not a single injured offensive player on this whole team. So we're at full strength. Obviously, that's looking good. Then the Cardinals defense, they got Darius Robinson back recently. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. Um,
hmm
and Mac Wilson is hurt, I believe, but I think that they have a pretty decent inside linebacker room. Like Owen Papo and Chris Barnes are pretty solid. So I don't think that's really affecting them tremendously. And their secondary is pretty healthy as well.
Yeah.
Um, they're also like not a great team, and we dominate them. So it's not like I don't know. I'm not super concerned about this game. I think I'm expecting a good victory. I'm expecting the Rams offense to have a huge bounce back game, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When it comes to the game itself, for me, it's just like you said, they're not a great team. They got eliminated from the playoffs, so I don't know where where the locker rooms at, what the vibe
Right.
is with their
Right.
team.
That
But
is huge,
one
actually.
thing, yeah, one thing I will say though is that especially Buda Baker himself, because he's been playing against us for so long, he would want more than anything else is for us to take us out of playoff contention.
100%.
So that's one little undercover thing we should look at. That they would probably love to take it to play spoiler, especially being a rival of ours, to play spoiler. So the Rams, we cannot come in how we came in against the Jets. We
Yep.
got to be on them from the start, and because they did beat us the first game, but we had so many injuries, so many Cooper Cup played like 2 quarters. Puka didn't play the whole
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
The whole offensive line was injured. So this is a whole different team that we're coming in
Mhm.
with against them. So I expect us to win. We could talk about that in the predictions, obviously, but we should
Yeah.
think about that part.
I wanted to pull up real quick. This is the defensive stats for the Arizona Cardinals and where they stand right now. They're 14th in points given up, so they're not bad. They're 20th in yards. They seem to have excelled really this year in the pass game. They are, besides interceptions, they're pretty much an above average to good pass defense team. Their run defense is below average to bad.
Mhm.
Um, Now, one place where they excel on offense, even today when they've been struggling mightily, because you can see they've lost like 4 out of their last 5. The only team they beat is the
Mhm.
Patriots. The place where they're still excelling is the run offense. Like so, you can see here they're fourth in rushing yards and second in yards per attempt. They're a little two-headed monster of Connor and um who was the other guy they drafted? It was
Great
Trey
yeah,
Benson.
yeah, Benson. They're and Kyler obviously, but they've had a nice little trio of running guys here. Really a quad because look at the yards per attempt for this. Amari DiMarcado is 9.3 yards per attempt on his rushing yards.
Yeah.
So they have a great running room. I mean, they're literally ranked.
Yeah.
They're literally ranked. They're kind of a top 5 running room. So they've struggled in the passing game, and so I'm hopeful that this is something that we better line up against than we did before because their passing game has just fallen off like entirely. They were actually pretty good until
Mhm.
Call of Duty came out and then Kyler started tanking. But
Yep.
I think definitely this one other thing I want to kind of point out here is this average drive section at the end here is interesting. They're top 5 in average time per drive. They're top 5 in average plays per drive, and they're top 5 in average yards per drive. But they sink
Huh.
to 11th. This is from their offense. I know we're not talking about that right now, but and then look at the defense. They're literally bottom 3, and so they have this is a coaching and like this is third down. This is red zone. This is like all that stuff, right? Huge difference between how they control the ball with guys like James Conner and Kyler who can constantly pick up first downs being a running quarterback, and then their defense just like can't get off the field. They just
Wow. So they
absolutely
go on long drives and they give up long drives. Okay.
correct. So they are kind of a tale of two sides of the ball and their level of execution in those key moments. But I mean I'm expecting to run the ball well against them. I'm expecting a comeback game from the passing attack. Are we going to be in Arizona? It doesn't really matter, but we're going to be in a dome either way,
It's in
No,
right?
LA.
it's
It's in LA.
it's
Okay.
it's in LA. Yeah.
So the weather's going to be good. It's going to be in a dome, controlled environment. I'm expecting. I mean, we should be expecting 30 plus points, right? This is a playoff. This is a division leading team. This is a playoff team. We should be expecting a comeback in that offensive. Now let's go ahead and talk about the defense versus the offense. Um, how are you guys feeling about the Rams defense currently?
Mhm.
I think um, well, specifically with this game, I think the one thing is that hurts us every time we face Kyler is him moving out the pocket and evading the
Yeah.
rush, especially
Yeah.
because we're usually able to get back there and pressure him. Just he always evades it. So I think that's going to be super important. The D line has a bounce back game. They got to
Yeah.
contain the edges. Jared has to contain the edge. Byron has to contain the edge. The Spates and Roseboom have to get up and make sure that they're keeping their zone. They're not if we use a spy or something like that, make sure they're being just staying safe and not trying to do too much because Kyler can avoid different things and
I'm not
get
trying
out
to
the way.
be a negative Nancy or a Chris Shula hater, but I have a feeling that either Christian Roseboom or Michael Hoyt is going to be in charge of the spying.
I don't like that at all.
Well, Michael Hoyt would be horrible.
If I'm the Rams, I
Roseboom
would
would be
I
bad
low
too.
key would make Cam Curl sort of a spy almost.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
He'll,
Bring the safety up and sort of put Quinn Lake back and then bring the safety up a little bit and make him sort of a spy.
I think just let Spates do it, honestly.
yeah, I'm good with
Yeah.
either of those options, but Spates I think is probably the best option. I don't think that's gonna happen. But look at the offense of the Arizona Cardinals. Um, really, I mean, I hate to be that guy, but I've been saying this about Kyler Murray since the day he got drafted. He's just not a good enough quarterback. This is actually a really talented offense. Like
Yeah, it is.
Marvin
Hmm.
Harrison and Greg Dortch, by the way, is a weapon. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention. Dortch is a weapon. Like he's no
Trey
joke.
McBride is a great weapon too.
McBride is great. They have two good running backs. They have
Yep.
a good old line, not great but good. They have a great tight end. McBride's a top 10 tight end.
Oh, he's probably closer to top
I
5. Yeah.
agreed. And then Harrison's a stud who's getting massively underutilized. Michael Wilson is not a bad receiver.
Mhm.
Let's talk about this for a second. I mean, we talk about the running game, how effective the running game has been, but like McBride is going to hit 1,000 yards this season. No touchdowns is crazy. How do you not use that guy in the red zone? He's a pretty
Yeah,
good
That's
that's
crazy.
surprising. He hasn't scored all year long.
Harrison has been good, but really their chemistry is awful. Like look at this. He's only catching just 51% of the balls that he's been thrown. And you guys have seen Marvin Harrison's hands. To me, that's got to be a Kyler problem because Harrison's got crazy hands. He's just too good of a running back to only be catching 51% of the balls thrown to him. Um,
Mhm.
Wilson is a nice little slot guy, and then Dortch is a weapon who's obviously getting underutilized as well. When Dortch is explosive, man. Um, I don't know if this is a badly coached offense because I don't pay enough attention to teams like this. I know they're in our division, but they're kind of like they don't mean anything in the greater scheme of football. But it seems like to me that offense should be better. Is it a Kyler Murray issue, do you guys think, or is it a coaching problem?
I think I'm not gonna lie. I think it's strictly Kyler. It's been multiple years in a row to where he starts off hot and then he falls off. And to me, it's due to his size. He gets hurt a lot, and then also specifically because of his size, it's certain throws that he can't make, especially when there's pressure getting in his face. So he always has to move out the pocket to get those throws. And I think, and he's also one thing about Kyler that people don't talk about enough is he also a bad decision maker.
Yeah.
He makes bad decisions in big moments all the time.
It,
It was a throw against like I forgot which team it was, but he was trying to throw the ball out of bounds and he floated it, and then it was an interception. I think it was the Vikings actually, but it was a he's a bad
He
decision
did
maker,
that
and I think
against
he's
us in the
he's
wild
part of the
card.
problem.
is it fair to say
Yeah,
that look, we can't know people's motivations or their innate feelings and thoughts, but is it fair to say that it appears from the outside like Kyler doesn't really like football that much?
I mean, like you just said, it's hard to judge what's in someone's
it's
mind. But I
it,
will
it's hard
say I'm
to
big on
judge.
common denominators, meaning, all right, so the Cardinals have gone through different coaches, right? They've had different regimes, they've
Different
had different
offensive coordinators, everything. Yes.
right. They've had the Cliff Kingsbury regime, they've had what they have now with Jonathan Gannon, and like the same issue when you see the same problem repeat itself with different coaches and different coordinators. To me, it's like you look at the common denominator, right? And Kyler Murray, we've kind of seen this happen multiple times. So I tend to look at Kyler. Yeah, that
Like you
I
just
think.
see guys, right? Like Brady and Manning, and I'll even go as like Stafford, and then currently like guys like Goff, and I'm not putting Lamar and Josh Allen there, not because they don't deserve to be. I just don't see it as well. Like guys who you can tell are like obsessed with football, like obsessed with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not saying
I
Lamar
guess
and Josh Allen aren't obsessed. I think they both talk about a lot of stuff that's off the field too. Like Stafford and Goff and Brady and Manning, like these guys, when you talk to these guys, all they talk about is football, like all the time.
right, right,
And
right.
I think Lamar and Josh Allen probably have a similar obsession, but they also have a lot of things going on off the field. That seems like a lot, like Allen just got engaged or married. I think that's a
Hmm.
bad thing, but like if I was a football player, I wouldn't be getting married in mid season. I just wouldn't be. That doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, I just feel like Kyler, like even watching his interviews talking about football, he just doesn't seem like he really cares that much.
But then also, Kyler, he was if he would have not went to NFL, he's gonna get drafted in the MLB. A team in the MLB
Yes,
was gonna like the Oakland Athletics was gonna draft him pretty high, so he was
wasn't
gonna be in the
no,
MLB if
he
he
did
did.
get drafted actually. They do get drafted in football. They just don't end up, or in baseball they just don't end up playing. But
Yeah.
Oh, he
I
did.
think
Okay,
yeah,
it was the Oakland Athletics then, wasn't it?
Mahomes got drafted too. Yeah, it was the Athletics.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of baseball drafts these guys who are multi sport guys oftentimes like late in the draft because they have like 15 20 rounds in the MLB draft. Anyways, I remember
Hmm.
Kyler did get drafted. That was actually one of the knocks on him was that he like loved baseball more than he loved football.
yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, look, I was just listening to I think it was Higby talking about Stafford. I can't remember. It was one of the Rams players talking about Stafford. It was either Kyron or Higby. And they were just saying like Stafford come is the first one in the building every single day. Like no one has to tell him to come in. Like Higby, yeah, it was Higby. Now that I remember, Higby was saying he was only there early to get treatment because he was rehabbing, and he'd see Stafford already there, first one in, watching film, like hours before practice. And then like you contract like to your point, you contrast that with Kyler Murray, who didn't they have to put a clause in his contract where like they required him to watch more film because he wasn't watching enough
No,
film. So
literally, it's worse than that. Like they did a thing. They did a thing to where he had to have a tablet where they would actually monitor how much
right,
film he watches on the tablet.
right, exactly. There you go. So like I mean that I think it's pretty
Well, I
much
think it
what
was
it
both
is.
of things. He had it in his contract, and then they took it out because it was
Yeah,
embarrassing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I mean I think anyways, I think there's a we can safely assume that he might not be like the most motivated guy. But and then besides that, just on the field, for whatever reason he hasn't ever been able to put together like a full
Season,
good season.
yeah.
So
hmm
any way you want to slice it, I don't think he's
So
like a true franchise quarterback.
yeah. So long, exactly. Long story short is, if the Cardinals got a better quarterback, they would be a scary offense. I think
Yeah, yeah.
they have
yeah.
some weapons. They have some stuff building, cooking there. The O line's not bad. The running game, some talented receiving threats with McBride and Harrison and stuff. I think good for us. They're stuck with Kyler for a while. I think so.
Right.
They will
Yeah.
continue to be irrelevant. But let's go ahead and move on to our key matchups for this game. Um, who wants to lead us off?
Mine's is really fast, and I sort of talked about it already. My key matchup is the D line versus Kyler Murray. Just keeping them contained,
Yep.
getting pressure on them. We've seen in like games not last year, but the year before last, Super Bowl season, and then we had games, and then we had the Super Bowl season, actually the playoffs and the regular season, where we had games where if we get pressure on Kyler, he breaks down and he throws the ball all over the place. He gets erratic, and because I remember Aaron Donald had like a 15-yard sack, like because Kyler was just running backwards.
Mhm.
So just get pressure on Kyler. I think we can frustrate him a lot and fluster him.
Yeah, I pretty much had the same thing. Little, I mean, I just said Rams edge players against Kyler Murray. If you're a Rams fan and you're not, brand new to being a fan, which if you are, welcome. But we know the deal with Kyler Murray. It's hard for him to beat you from the pocket. So
Mhm.
you contain him in that pocket, force him to beat you from there. It's not a good recipe for Arizona. That's pretty much mine. Just edge players containing Kyler Murray.
All right, I'm gonna head a different direction since you guys went there, and I actually want to show some statistics on this. My my key matchup is basically the guys containing the non-receivers. I'm talking about Trey McBride and James Conner. Conner is actually surprisingly very good in the pass game.
Yeah, he is.
410
Mhm.
yards, 9.1 yards per catch. Like those
Yep.
are both excellent numbers for running backs. Trey McBride, like we talked about, is probably a top 5 tight end. But also, you got Elijah Higgins, who's been decent in the pass game in limited time, and then this Amari guy has been decent in the run game as well, or in the pass game as well from the running back position. You've got these guys who are non-receivers who are pretty much leading the way for the passing game of this team. which means that we need guys like Cam Curl, Omar Spates, and unfortunately, guys like Michael Hoyt, who we know is going to be on coverage against these guys like Quentin Lake, who we know is going to be in coverage against these guys, and Christian Roseboom. That makes me nervous. The fact that those three guys are going to be playing an important role in stopping this offense. And so, yeah, that's my key matchup is like containing the guys who are going to be covering, containing the tight ends and running backs of the Arizona Cardinals.
Yep. Okay. I hear that.
All right.
I
Keys
agree.
to victory.
I'm just gonna
Um,
go because
oh,
mine is
go.
super simple, super cliche, but true. Good teams, playoff football, December football, you got to stop the run and you got to run the ball. And I think that's especially true. So that's always true, but it's especially true in this matchup where we kind of just outlined it with the stats. They're a good running team. They're a better running team than they are a passing team.
Correct.
You got to stop James Conner. James Conner is a very good back. And then flip it to the other side. The weakness on their defense. Ethan showed us that their run defense is their weakness. I think we could see a similar game plan to what we saw against the Jets, where we just kind of commit to the run, and if it's working, we just kind of just leave it there. But yeah, that's my key to victory: run the ball and stop the run.
Yeah. Like always, just don't make Kyler Murray into a superstar. He's been having a really bad second half of the season, but we all know that Kyler's good for one game to where he looks incredible. So please don't make it the game on Saturday. Just stop Kyler Murray from becoming a superstar.
Um, Excellent points, gentlemen. I have another statistically backed up point I want to show real quick. And so my key to victory is basically winning the time of possession and limiting explosives,
Okay.
which is kind of what you were saying as far as the time of possession part about just basically running the ball better. Like that helps control time of possession and kind of keep our offense on the field and theirs off. But they're a very, very explosively able team, if that phrase makes sense. And I want to show this is the player profiler of James Conner. And this season, his explosiveness rating right here, if you guys can see this, he is sixth in explosiveness rating. His breakaway
Okay.
runs, he's gotten a breakaway one on 14 times this season, which is a run that's I think 10 yards or more. He's fourth in the NFL at explosive runs, and his explosiveness rating includes passes. He's sixth in the NFL, so he's like ironically, because Connor used to be known as like a power back, he's one of the most explosive running backs in the NFL this season. And obviously, Kyler Murray can be an explosive runner as well. These guys can break off for 10, 20, 30, 40-yard runs at any time. Um, so it's about limiting those explosives and winning time of possession.
I agree.
All right, guys. So moving on to our last topic of conversation predictions. Joe, you want to get us started?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Will mentioned it earlier. This is a playoff game, probably the biggest game of the year for us. If we win the game, we essentially wrap up the division. They give us like a 90% chance. I think Ethan mentioned that earlier in the pod. So I think we need to come out there and dominate and do what we do to the Cardinals. Other than early in the year, but like I said, we were injured, a totally different team. But do what we do to the Cardinals every year. We beat them down when it matters the most. So I think we win the game 14-27. The Rams win.
Okay.
All right. I'll be quick. I got Rams 26, Cardinals 20.
Okay. And I'm going to go Rams 33, Cardinals 17.
Wow. All right.
Ooh.
We haven't really had like a blowout all year. I mean, I think 10 points is like the most we've.
Listen,
Is
the
that is
the
that all?
Cardinals are the Cardinals are the perfect team to do it too because they blew us out early in the season. So
Yeah.
Uh,
give
Yeah.
it back to them.
our 10-point victory just now was tied for the biggest of the season. That in the Vikings game was 30-20.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We got the safety at the end. Yeah. Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah, we own the Cardinals. Sean McVay owns the Cardinals. When Sean McVay retires, I think the ownership of the Cardinals will be given to him for free because he's owned them for so long.
I mean, they whooped our ass week 2 though.
It's stuff happens. It was just
Yeah.
a bad. It was
Totally
it was a
different
fluky
team.
game full of
Yeah.
injuries.
Yeah.
That was just a fluky game. I mean, what do we talk about it like? The record McVay's record against the Cardinals is like 80% or something, or 90%,
Right.
something ridiculous. So I'm not worried about it. I think it's going to be a blowout. I think the Rams offense is going to click. I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to fall flat in their face.
Yeah.
they have. I mean, they lost to the Panthers, guys.
They lost to the Panthers in a must-win game. Like that's kind of just says it all.
You
Yeah.
know what? That says a lot, bro. You lost to the one of the worst teams in football in a must-win game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awful, man.
Yeah.
It's awful.
All right, guys, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe. Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays. It
Yep.
is
Happy holidays, everybody.
that time of the year. We appreciate you guys tuning in to us and supporting. But as always, guys, we'll see you next episode.
Later, guys. Go
Peace.
Rams.